Nobody sets out to make a bad game. Video games, even shoddy ones, take a lot of time, energy, and money to create. Who wants to waste all that on a substandard product? But things don't always go according to plan. All it takes is one rushed deadline, unforeseen technical hurdle, or poor decision to tank an otherwise promising game. Even in a year bursting with great games, a few duds are bound to sneak through. Mass Effect Andromeda. No other game in 2017 crumbled under the weight of fans' expectations quite like Mass Effect Andromeda. After Mass Effect 3 wrapped up Commander Shepard's saga with one of the most divisive endings in video game history, the Mass Effect faithful looked to Andromeda to restore the franchise to its previous glory. And then the game arrived. The action-heavy combat earned positive marks, but bugs and glitches ran rampant. Critics and players found fault with Andromeda's facial animations, while many criticized the game for being boring and wrote off its world-expanding side quests as filler. It should have been the triumphant return of video gaming's best and most compelling space opera, and it isn't. Not even close.
I'm sorry, Scott. I know this must be a blow.
Yooka-Laylee. Nostalgia alone isn't enough to make a good game. Just look at Yooka-Laylee. In the lead up to its release, the developer assured backers and fans that it would be just like the 3D platformers of the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation eras. Yooka-Laylee promised to immerse players in colorful, playground-like worlds to explore and collect as many trinkets as they could find. But players quickly realized that it didn't only capture the old Nintendo 64 game's strengths, it preserved all of their weaknesses too. The unwieldy camera received well-deserved scorn from reviewers. So did the stereotypical levels, big puzzles, and tedious gameplay cycle. Yooka-Laylee is more like a time capsule than a reinvention. For nostalgia hounds, it can be fun to look at, but it probably should have stayed buried. Friday the 13th, the game. In 2015, Gun Media announced it had secured the license for Friday the 13th, then took to Kickstarter and racked up the money it needed to make Friday the 13th, the game, a reality. But while many stories have happy endings, Friday the 13th isn't one of them. When the game launched in summer 2017, it barely worked. As a multiplayer game, it required other people to play, and thanks to a larger than anticipated crowd of aspiring camp counselors, Friday the 13th servers tanked. The game never quite recovered. Even when players could connect, they had problems. The game's inconsistent frame rate and other graphical glitches ruined Friday the 13th's creepy atmosphere. The process for beating Jason is convoluted and never really explained, and the whole adventure feels repetitive after just a couple of matches. Friday the 13th, the game still has a great premise. Ironically, it's the execution that falls short.
Well, that's disappointing.
Reservoir Dogs' Bloody Days. Believe it or not, this marks the second time developers have tried to bring Quentin Tarantino's feature film debut to video game consoles. Reservoir Dogs' Bloody Days is an ambitious take on the property. In Bloody Days, you enter the scene as one person and, once their tasks are done, rewind to the beginning of the level and take control of a second gangster. The first criminal does exactly what you told him to do, while you can use the new character to change the action on the fly. That's an extremely clever way to translate Reservoir Dogs' fractured, non-linear narrative into a game. Or it would be if it worked. The rewind system often produces unexpected results, contradicting its own rules and making gunfights more confusing than they need to be. It's frustrating, not fun. It's also full of bugs and has almost nothing to do with the movie. A solid gimmick alone does not a good game make. Troll and I. Troll and I desperately wants to be an epic, heartfelt adventure story about the bond between its two very different leads. The gameplay divides responsibilities, making players switch between the titular troll and his friend by pressing a button. But creating a real emotional attachment between players and their characters is hard. It takes a lot of craft and a working game. Troll and I has neither. It's not just the graphics, although the troll has a face only a mama troll could love. It's the sloppy controls, it's the mind-numbing prologue, it's the repetitive, simple combat and tedious puzzles, and the poorly told story. Troll and I gives you very little reason to care about its characters, robbing the game of any potential drama.
It hurts, doesn't it?
Vroom in the Night Sky. The developer of Vroom in the Night Sky describes the game as a magical bike action game in which, quote, you become a magical girl Luna and ride a magical bike to fly around the night sky and collect stardusts. If that sounds like gibberish, you'd better buckle in. We're just getting started. When you start, the game asks, are you the first time to play this game? But the shoddy translation is just the beginning. The game tasks you with flying around on your magic bike, which uses magic gasoline because everything in this game is magical. Collect enough stardust and you can buy new bikes. Occasionally, an enemy witch shows up and challenges you to a race, but the outcome really doesn't matter. The environments look like they're ripped from a lazy Nintendo 64 game, while the controls are disastrous. After the game became internet famous for its poor translation, the developer released an update that improved the script. Unfortunately, the new text is somehow worse. That's just the kind of game Vroom in the Night Sky is.
Really, really bad.
Thanks for watching. Click the SVG icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.